Hello, this is Julie Mansell from Gem Ministries International, and I'm just going through these cards that have been produced by Colin McIntyre. And if you want a little bit more information on these cards, you can find them at www.covenant.cards. And we've got to the Vassel Covenant. So remember, we talked about the three different types of covenant: the grant covenant, the kinship covenant, and now the Vassel Covenant. And this was also known as a suzerain treaty, and it's a covenant that's made between two parties of very unequal status. We talked last time about the kingship covenant between equal parties, brothers, or a marriage or a trade agreement. This one, you've got one stronger party, who's the suzerain, and one weaker party. And it's a one-sided agreement on the vassal. The vassal is an Old English word that means like the servant or the weaker party. So you've got like the lord of the manor, if you were familiar with the English term, and the serf that looked after the land would be the weaker party. So this was often a covenant that was made in the cases of a conquered city in the time that it was happening to the children of Israel. And it typically included 6 basic elements. So it had an introduction, and it talked about the history of how the two parties had behaved with one another. It talked about it had a prologue to it and the stipulations of the covenant, what each party had to do. Then there was the actual document itself with all the clauses of the covenant and who witnessed it, who was witnessing the covenant. And then the blessings of obeying the covenant and the curses of not obeying the covenant. And the entire book of Deuteronomy is structured around a Near Eastern vassal covenant. And we're going to have a look at the 2 covenants that happened during the time of Moses and moving into Joshua in a session a little bit further on. But this is what the children of Israel moved into after Moses died and Joshua took over. And it was a vassal covenant, which is the worst kind of covenant you could possibly have. And we'll talk a little bit more about the disaster of being under a vassal covenant with Almighty God.